Hello everyone, my name is Lowko, and welcome to a best of 3 series of top level StarCraft 2. We're starting with a Terran versus Zerg today, a best of 3 series. We're in the top right hand corner. Playing right here in blue, we have none other than Maru, and down in the bottom left, playing in red, we have a Lambo. Now this particular series was played during the Lulu Cup, a $10,000 tournament. These two actually played against each other twice in the group stage of the tournament. I believe it used like a GSL type of format where basically you have a match between the two competitors first, and then a little bit later on in the group stage you have like a deciders match as well. So I believe these two played as like an opening match, and then later on once more as a deciders match as well. Maybe we should have a look at both. Maybe we should go ahead and have a look at both of them, because, I mean, we don't really get to see Maru compete all that often. There are more Maru replays out there once again, but for a while there, he wasn't really playing in a ton of tournaments. And I feel like I've been giving the exact same introduction as well about Serral. Serral, of course, likewise also doesn't play in a ton. But apparently when you bring out $10,000, that's when both Maru as well as Serral decide to sign up. So let's see. Maru's certainly the favorite going into this one. Maru, of course, one of the elusive StarCraft 2 millionaires. He has earned a ton of money winning basically all of the Korean tournaments over the last decade or so. He was actually part of the very first GSL Code S back in 2010 when he was just a little kid. I think he was literally like 11 or 12 years old, something along those lines. Pretty ridiculous. It took him a while to get to the absolute highest level. I mean, a while as in a few more years. He was still very young when he first started winning tournaments as well, but he basically has never let go. And whenever people discuss who the greatest StarCraft 2 player is of all time, well, Maru is the name that pops up together with Serral. Now, I think these days, it's pretty clear that Serral has been a little bit ahead of Maru, mostly because of, well, dominance over a very long period of time, winning the World Championships multiple times as well, right? And that is something that really seals the deal, but Maru is still somebody that you can never count out. Now, Lambo, he's known as the Professor. That's at least how a lot of the European Zerg players call him, because he's a very intelligent player. He's a extremely good macro player. If you look at the build orders that he goes for, usually those are also the ones that, for example, Serral, that, for example, Raynor, that all of the top-level Koreans end up going for in the end. Lambo has been, when he's got a good day, I think he can beat everybody. That's one of the crazy things about Lambo. He can effectively take down any player on the planet, but I guess when you're playing the absolute highest level tournaments, the guys that you go up against are also just so ridiculously consistent. It is one thing to win like a best of 3 series. It is an entirely different thing to go ahead and win like a best of 7 finals when there's a lot of money on the line as well. But never count Lambo out. He is genuinely one of the very best Zerg players out there when he does have a good day. So, triple command center opener right here for Maru. Very quick second barracks inside of the main base. That does mean that Maru is going to be delaying his starport production quite a bit. We're probably not going to see any sort of Hellion micro here. This is just going to be straight up Marines, and it is going to be a relatively short run, especially if he takes the third base over here. Third command center, of course, already done, but if he takes the third base over here, the push straight through the middle is relatively short. Lambo decided to take the forward third hatch. This has become very popular on Tourmaline lately, but it does mean that you are expanding in the direction of the Terran player, and that is something that is always a little bit sketchy. It does mean, though, that there's an easier fourth base, maybe even a fifth as well, that you can take by expanding backwards. One of the big advantages is that you can start your creep spread a little bit further forward as well here when you take that third. And if Terran is not careful, if, for example, there aren't a lot of Hellions driving around, you may just end up in a situation where he actually is producing quite a few Hellions here with the double Rex. A little bit funky. Anyways, you may end up in a situation as the Terran player where there's just so much creep that you can't really contest it. Okay. Now, I wonder what Lambo is going to be doing. Remember how lately a lot of the Zerg players at the highest level have been skipping out on Banelings against the likes of, for example, Clem? At least on the European server. It seems that a lot of the Zerg players have decided that Banelings are good, but not until a late game unit. Okay, I was wondering if maybe that's a build order that Lambo has come up with, but doesn't seem to be the case, at least in this particular instance. We're going straight lair together with a Baneling Nest. It is going to enable him as well to then go straight into Baneling Speed. Safety Spore Crawlers right now in all of the mineral lines. We've got ourselves a extra set of gases added into the natural expansion. All of this is very normal, and it does not look like we are going to be going for any very rapid infestation pit here. Maybe he wants to make one to go into the hive, but I don't think we're going to be rushing it out and delaying those banelings until much, much later. Nice attack, though, already coming in here for Maru. Does he have an armory? He does. Okay, the armory is going to allow those Hellions to transform into Hell Bats, and this is always a scary push. We do have a couple of Banes coming up. Honestly, without Banelings, this is almost a impossible hold. Even slow Banes are going to be nice, though. Queen's very well positioned, and only 3 drones have died so far. I think that's about as good a hold as Lambo can really hope for. Double Evo Chamber right now on the back of this. Lair is done. I'm assuming we're going to be building this up here in just a moment. But he is droning so freaking hard here. Holding down the worker button, getting the 4th base up and running already. In the meantime, by the way, Maru did secure his own 3rd. So the 3rd base now finally on the low ground. He's going to double upgrades of his own. He's getting the combat shields going. So even though this is a nice little push here from the Terran, it wasn't really that committed. And did he even really lose anything? No. No, he did not. As a matter of fact, this is a flawless game thus far. I don't believe that all the Marines are going to be able to survive until the very end. It is unlikely we will see a perfect Terran game. Yeah. I mean, I've seen like 1 or 2 games where Protoss goes for like a Stalker all-in, and then the Stalkers never die, and Protoss technically has the perfect game in the sense that they never lost anything. I don't know if you can do that with Zerg or with Terran, though, because especially these unit compositions are very, very flimsy. Drilling Claws already here for Maru. I think going Hydra then here is quite nice for Lambo. Hydras do indeed outrange Widowmines, so not a bad idea, but we already have siege tanks still added into the mix here too for the South Korean Terran. So he's mixing and matching a bunch of different styles all at the same time. Great scan over there too, by the way. You got like, what, 6 or 7 or so creep tumors there in the end? Not bad. Looks like the Hellbats are gonna be disappearing, and so does the perfect game for Maru. But I don't think he's all too upset about it. Those Hellbats usually not too great the longer that the game goes on. Instead, he's now dumping his additional minerals, not on a more Hellions, but on a 4th command center instead. Okay, there's barracks 6, 7, and 8 coming up. I'm assuming 2nd factory. Do we already have one? Yeah, we do. Where is it? Am I blind? Oh. Look, I'm sleep deprived, okay? Can I blame the... Blaming the baby seems mean. But I haven't been sleeping very much. Yeah, not seeing the... Normally, in my defense, normally the 2nd factory goes up and right next to the 3rd base. Widowmine drop, though, goes into the 3rd base here of the Zerg. Nice little drop here by Maru, although... Yeah, he does lose 2 of the Widowmines here, and he also does lose the medevac. 8 drones is kind of whatever. Yeah, I think we're gonna have a lot more of those moments. It's gonna get worse. That's kind of the problem here. Another Widowmine drop over at the left side base as well. And this final detonation. Okay, good split there by Lambo in the end. Only 16 drones in total. Kind of sounds like a lot, but it's been spaced out over the course of 8.5 minutes. And when you have this much economy, Lambo can very rapidly replace it. This is one of my genuine concerns, though. I always miss things that are in the middle of my screen anyways when I'm casting games of StarCraft. If we change the amount of sleep that I have to like 50% for... Oh man, these Widowmine drops are relentless. If we're changing it out, though, for like a half year maybe, to... Well, maybe, I don't know how many hours I'm going to be sleeping for the foreseeable. I don't know, it's hard to say, but if we're going to be changing it out, there's a good chance that it's only going to get worse. These Widowmine drops, though, are nasty. And an additional 8 drones go down, but I think it's easy here as a Terran to overestimate your advantage. Like, those Widowmines are not free. The medevacs are also very expensive, and they're the unit you really want to keep around. Maru, though, is going to keep on fishing. Here, fishy, fishy. It is very annoying for the Zerg. Oh, Baneling? Baneling. Ooh, that's nice. Now, those sort of hits, I think you can be very yeah, very happy about. Now there's another one yet again at the newly acquired 5th. Okay, I kind of like this here for Maru, who's already now going into a 3rd factory. Lambo, though, has had enough. He's maxed out or close enough to it, and he decides to go for a big attack right before 2-2 is done, and he is pushing into a planetary fortress. Marines and Marauders mostly stand their ground. Excellent defense there by Maru. He loses a bunch of important troops, but I don't think he is all too unhappy about it. This attack taking place right before these 2 upgrades are done, it is gonna make all of it significantly weaker for Lambo. And one of the things that Maru is extremely good at, right, is not really having any particular weaknesses. So it's not like Maru has a weak early game, late game, mid game. He's always good. Strategically, he's probably the most sound Terran player. Maybe Clem has him beat when it comes to like raw speed. But Maru really is, well, I think probably the best Terran player of all time. Maybe APM-wise, Clem is a little bit quicker, but there's no denying that Maru just does not slow down. And this is one of those spots, right? So this is not really a super big momentum advantage here for the Terran. It's not really a position that he can continuously push from, but it is gonna take forever for the Zerg to actually, well, get back into the game. And I rarely, if ever, see Maru lose from this spot. Because what exactly does Lambo have? Lambo has a Hive, sure, but no Lurker Den. He doesn't have Hive Tech upgrades yet. He doesn't have Adrenal Glands. He's not going 3-3. Maru is cruising. Yeah, the fungal growth here is nice. Getting a Medivac is good. But Maru's army is rapidly improving, and Lambo is kind of stagnant. He still has a good eco. Man, this planetary fortress as well, though, is like an anchor. These siege tanks to create a straight line towards that Zerg 3rd. It's really lovely. Lambo, though, trying to set up a surround. No energy anymore on the Infestor to go for a fungal growth. Still, though, he might just have the numbers to push through this. It's mostly Marauders remaining here for Maru. Siege tanks, though, put in so much work. Man, Maru is so freaking good. Especially considering the first Hellbat push didn't really do that much. It can kind of feel as a Terran that the game is starting to slip out of your hands. Now he finally gets the 3rd base killed. Siege tank gets the shot as well down onto that Infestor. He backs up again to the safety of the tanks. 28 confirmed kills on that bad boy. I wouldn't be surprised if Maru adds on the Ghost production here in a moment. If he decides to go into a little bit of Liberator production as well. We are gonna go for the Ghost personal cloaking, but I mean, maybe you don't even have to go Ghosts. If your opponent is going basically pure Hydraling Bane, if there's no Lurkers, no Ultras, no Brood Lords, do you really have to worry about Ghost production? Nah, just stick around till Marine Marauder Medevac mine tank, right? Just make all of the mid-game units. He's pumping out 12 Marines at a time, pushing deeper onto the creep right now, leapfrogging the siege tanks forward. Lambo is desperately trying to stay alive. But Maru absolutely dominates game number 1. And that right there is Maru in a nutshell. An absolute monster. Did he do anything wrong? Not really. Nah, you can probably look at some of the isolated fights, right? Look at some of the engagements, and maybe he could have squeezed out a little bit more value, but considering the knowledge that he had, I think he played that pretty much perfectly. So what do you do now here as Lambo? Ooh, he loses a drone here to the Reaper. Not the end of the world, but very frustrating. And it is one of the things, I mean, if you get a second one, you may as well tap out. It is one of the things that Terran players just immediately get a smile from, right? So triple command center built yet again here from Maru, but this is another thing that Maru does better than any other Terran out there. He switches out his build orders constantly. Now, of course, he opened up with a triple barracks and a triple command center opener in the previous game too, right? But this is now a 3rd CC before a factory, before a second production structure. This is 1 Reaper, straight reactor, right? Maybe 1 Marine, but then straight reactor onto the barracks, straight 3rd base, and now we finally add on additional production again. It's a super greedy build here for Maru, but he's already gotten away with it. There's nothing that Lambo can really do about it. And it basically just means that his mid-game is just going to be more powerful. Like, he's already shaved maybe like a half minute or so off of any sort of mid-game timing attack. And this really is something that I feel like only Maru has. I mean, when it comes to Terran. Serral has likewise also got this, like, impossible to kill type of aura. I think Maru has a very similar vibe as well. Like, this right here would be a pretty terrible build to go for on the ladder, because you're basically just playing best of ones. But Maru's not playing a best of one here, right? Like, he's won the first game. He's got a little bit of wiggle room. If you've won the first game against a quintessential macro Zerg, what are the odds of Lambo going for an all-in in game number 2 with, like, roaches or a Ling Bane bust? They're practically 0. So I think you can get away with a triple command center opener as greedy as this one almost every single time. And it feels like whenever Maru does not go for this build, right? When he is leading the series, but he doesn't open up with a very greedy game number 2, that's usually the times that Zergs do end up going for something like a Baneling bust, and it falls flat on their faces. So it is a bit of a gamble. It is a little bit of a coin flip, but it's a weighted coin in this particular instance. Quick lair here for Lambo. Baneling nest yet again. Okay. So I wonder where those Zergs, the European Zergs in particular, have gotten their infestor builds from. They've, well, at least against Clem, at least against Björn, they've been skipping out Banelings until the late game, but apparently Lambo here is disagreeing. Which is fair enough. Okay. So, what do we go for? Well, Maru has got very quick double upgrades. He's not going to have combat shields done anytime soon, but this is going to lead into a really nice timing attack, if that is what he wants. He doesn't even really need to be honest. Like, he can just keep macroing here. It's a Lambo who likely has to do something about the greed of the Terran. I don't really see exactly what sort of push, though, he can go for. He decides to follow this up with his own double upgrades. He's going into the Baneling speed now. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And while nothing's really happened as far as fighting goes in this game yet, I'm already kind of disliking the position for Lambo. Yeah, one really easy glance, I suppose, to see how the game is going is the upgrades. Look at 2-2 starting as Zerg just begins 1-1. That's crazy. Obviously, for Terran, you don't need to have like a tier 3 structure out either to go into the tier 3 upgrades. All you need is an armory and then, well, 2-2 done. So he is going to be, I want to say, like 2 minutes ahead for like the next 10 minutes or so when it comes to the upgrades. Great control over here too. Metavex right now out. I think Lambo, though, has sniffed out that something has happened on the other side of the map. It's difficult for the Zerg to really figure it out because he hasn't really seen anything, but he is trying to be as greedy as possible. Macro-wise, though, Lambo does look good here. He's already got a lot of creep out on the map. He's already going into a 5th base. He's gonna be firing up the hive here at like minute 7, which is by no means particularly, particularly slow. So he has all the right tools. It's just that he has basically played like the safe version of a greedy build, whereas Maru already gotten away with all of the greed at like minute 3. 4th command center coming up. Barracks 6, 7, and 8 coming up as well. 2nd factory out front. This time around it is close to the 3rd base. So even I see it. That's nice. I think we're likely going to see a push here with 2-2 and then combat shields finishing up. All of this is lined up to finish up right around the same time. Again, he doesn't really need to, but I also think it's smart to, at the very least, keep a little bit of pressure up. Okay. Now, what are we going for, Lambo? I do not see a Hydra den. So that means it's likely going to it's likely going to be Lingbane Ultra. How do we feel about Lingbane Ultra? Maybe if you can hit like a really good fungal growth, and then the Ultras can close the distance, and it's gonna be happy days, but I feel like if we play straight up Lingbane Ultra against Maru, he's just gonna dismantle it. New command center coming up. 2-2, combat shields, all of it is done. Maru not actually going for a push. Planetary Fortress over at the 4th. Zergling Baneling run by in the natural expansion. Siege tank actually blocking the liftoff. And this might be the first time, okay, that Lambo is able to strike back. Oh, Banelings! No! He could have done so much damage! Oh, yo, I can't believe that Maru actually escapes death there. Could have been a very decent number of worker kills, but still though, he's not out of the woods just yet. So many banelings and zerglings are still running around, and suddenly Maru is out of position and the entire minimap is glowing. My god, this is Lambo getting a little bit lucky that the front door was wide open and that the siege tank was blocking the liftoff on that supply depot. But man, does he grab the opportunity with both hands. Pretty sure he can't believe his own luck here. Wow. 32 SCVs just like that. Planetary Fortress over here was denied as well. And now indeed the Ultra transition is going to be pretty sweet. Ultras 2-2 Adrenal Glands. Okay. Lambo needed that though, because I think if he didn't, Maru was just going to run away with the game. Now the game significantly in favor of the Zerg. Not GG yet though for Maru. I mean, he's a Terran player with 5 command centers and really solid upgrades. So I don't think you can ever really count him out. But whatever late game plan the Terran here had, it needs to be thrown out of the window. It is about time we get back into, well, just some regular late game, I guess, where we slowly progress out there. I think we'll probably see a follow-up attack though from Lambo in a bit. Adrenal Glands is such a good upgrade. 2-2 is a really big power spike as well. I would love to see chitinous plating. Ah, there it is, in the Ultralisk Cavern. But instead he decides to just keep on flooding the map with Ling Bane. Okay, good splits over there against those Widow Mines. There is an Overseer coming through. No Overlord speed yet though, so it is trailing behind just a tad. The wall never really got rebuilt. Planetary Fortress over on the right side of the map is also going to get shut down. SCVs get blown up in the natural expansion, and while we see trains of those bad boys still going around left, right, and center, Maru is just dealing with all of these problems poorly. He's trying his best to stabilize, but, I mean, when you lose 61 workers in like 3 minutes time, even if you're a god-tier Terran, I don't think you're going to be able to climb back. The Ultras now are going to hit super hard as well. Now suddenly the Ultras are gonna be, well, Ultra. We see them being pretty mediocre very frequently, but I think in this instance with Terran not able to go into Hive, right? The Terran Hive, that is. No Liberators, no Ghosts, nothing along those lines. It's just gonna be Marie Marauder Medevac Mine. I just don't really see how in the world Maru is gonna be able to stop the Chompers. And here they are. They do need chitinous plating. Without this upgrade, the Marines are going to be good enough by themselves. But, I mean, is he going to push? Don't throw it away, Lambo. I don't know, man. Okay. Maru sees the Ultras. He decides to rip off the Band-Aid himself. I don't think he knew that chitinous wasn't done yet, but nice win here for the German Zerg. Ooh. Apparently, that wasn't even Lambo's final form. Game number 3 takes place on Ruby Rock. And the man has switched to pink. A pink Lambo. I mean, if I would ever buy a Lambo, which I wouldn't because I think supercars are stupid, but anyways, maybe it's because I don't know. Maybe if you have a lot of money, this suddenly is a good idea. But a pink Lambo? I mean, that's a baller move. I guess most people get them in yellow, right? Maybe yellow, maybe red or something. No, Ferraris are usually red, I guess. Yeah, Lambos are usually yellow, right? Yeah, they should be. Ooh, really? Lambo decides to go for a roach bush with Burrow. Wait, what's this? I'm almost wondering if it's a misclick and that was meant to be a queen. But I highly doubt it. I mean, there is certainly a lot of potential to go for like a burrowed roach push. But they have fallen off massively over the years because Terrans usually go, oh my god, he's playing mech. Usually Terrans go for Banshee openers, right? Hellion Banshee is very good at shutting down roach pushes. Likewise, the double barracks triple command center build, you finish up Stimpack by like minute 5. Roaches will arrive around the same time and they just don't do very much. This right here is looking like maybe a Blue Flame Hellion opener, maybe a Cyclone build. If that's what Maru ends up going for, he's in a world of trouble. Yep, the roaches are marching. Oi, 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 oi. Maru. He's droning behind it, though, so this is not all in. There's also no Zergling speed. Man, a Burrowed roach rush. They've moved this upgrade to hatchery tech like 10 years ago, and nobody has ever gotten it on purpose. Okay, maybe not nobody, but it never really happens. Okay, Maru's gonna see it now. Roaches, of course, can burrow and regenerate reasonably easily. At this point, Terran does not have any good detection. There is no visual indicator either that Burrow is researched. He wants to go up to the high ground, though. Are we gonna burrow them? Yep, we are gonna burrow them. Splash damage, though, will still actually hurt these roaches, but they heal so quickly that I don't think it really matters. Wait a second. Cyclone production, though, is kicking in. Maru decides to go for the scan just so he can maybe still shut some of this down. Scans are expensive, though, because every scan could have been a mule instead. Basically about 300 minerals or so, give or take, for a single mule. So, yeah, using up a scan like that is not free, but it may just have bought enough time. The fact that there is a Cyclone build here really is saving Maru's butt. If this was a Blue Flame Hellion opener instead, he would have basically been dead already. Oh, I kind of love this, though. The Professor is bringing it out yet again. He wants to run those roaches right outside of the detection radius. There is enough energy for one more scan. Yep, there we go. And I think eventually all of this is going to get shut down. But the thing is, Maru has spent at least, I want to say like 1,000 minerals worth of like lost mining time together with mules, right? So this won't really be reflected here in the resources lost, but Maru has really slowed down his own early game quite a lot. Still, he defends against the roaches, and he's now going to be able to go on the counter-offensive. Keep in mind that Cyclones are way faster, of course. There's no link speed, no roach speed, so the dancing here on creep is going to be a little bit better. Nice Evo Chamber block, but it's not going to be easy here for the Zerg whatsoever. Nice micro here by Maru in the end. He cannot afford to lose any Cyclones. Cyclones do have their mag field accelerator upgrade done right now. The bug, by the way, has been fixed a little while ago already. It's one of the reasons why Cyclone builds have become, well, far less popular. I love this for Maru, though. Sneaking the Hellions around the left side of the map, knowing very well that the roaches are distracted. They will be running through right now. How many worker kills will we see? Well, it's a lot of lost mining time and 6 drones in total. Okay. Keep in mind that Maru, of course, did make a quick 3rd command center. So at least the lost workers, the lost mining time, it can be recuperated reasonably effectively. Armory coming up. Another factory on the production tab as well. A roach speed added into the mix. We have the +1 missile upgrade coming up. And this game right now is honestly very difficult to predict. So I do think it's an advantage for Lambo, but what are his options, right? Do you go swarm hosts? Do you use the infestation pit to go hive? Because I don't think you can go for a roach push against somebody who's, yeah, already getting siege tanks up to a reasonable number, who's already got Cyclones with the lock-on improvement done. I really don't see a roach push alone. This could be swarm host play, though. We saw this very effectively recently from Raynor, and you know what? We have 6 OVs coming up. I think that's what we got. It has to be. Scanning here for the Terran player just to reveal roughly what's going on. He doesn't see much, but I think these overlords, yep, they can only really be for swarm host play. No, it's not. Really? Scanning the main base right now to see whether or not there's a hive coming up. No hive. He sees the infestation pit. Maru's gonna... Maru's gonna assume that this is a swarm host built as well. Instead, what we got is Mass Roach with Tunneling Claws. Another one of those upgrades that on paper is absolutely phenomenal, but in practice, we rarely see it used. Let's see. Is this something that Maru is going to be caught off guard against? So he has a Raven. Raven, of course, are mobile detectors. We should also see some missile turrets as, like, detection being set up. Hydra Den on the back it is. Man, I think Lambo was anticipating here, making the switch to Swarm Host, but then he decided better of it. Can he push in? I mean, that's a nice spread on the tanks. There's a large group of roaches as well coming in from the north. Tunneling Claws, by the way, is going to be revealed here. The roach skin will change to one with more spikes. Is there enough for the Terran player to defend against this? SCVs are pooled, but they are blocking the roaches and the ravagers from closing the distance. It's a lot of losses, though, here on the side of the South Korean Terran. And while he holds, it's another 19 workers down the drain. Hoping for some lucky corrosive balls. Not going to be happening. Yeah, indeed, and now we go into a bunch of missile turrets. So he does indeed see the little spikes on top of those roaches, which indicates that indeed there is likely going to be some burrowed roaches moving around the map here in just a moment. Now, it's a bit weird to go into more Banshee production, but I can't really blame Maru here. Banshees with hyperflight rotors, that is the speed upgrade for those bad boys. It's an interesting hit squad, but they can certainly deal a lot of damage against roaches. And I mean, if there is indeed like a Nidus Swarm Host transition, I think these are the types of units that are really good as well at shutting down the worms. Here's the groups, though, moving around the map yet again. We've got ourselves a Spire coming up. Viper production has kicked in. We do not have a Lurker then, so I think Lambo wants to make the switch on over towards maybe Broodlords or something. It's a bit funky, but I do think in the late game you need something that can siege a Terran Mech army. And at this point, I mean, Maru is not even close by to try and go after this. Do kind of dig, though, that Maru decided to go into a orbital command as well for the 4th base. Normally, you go into a planetary here, but you know what? If you need to play catch-up, maybe it's not such a bad idea to just get a little bit more value out of your command centers themselves as well. Overlord speed, +2 attack. Okay. Ultimately, though, Maru is looking like he will be maxing out in a minute or two from now. And while the road there has been very complex, yeah, ultimately when you get to a maxed out Terran Mech army, yeah, you're not too upset about the situation, because this is a far stronger army in a straight up fight for the Terran than it is for the Zerg. Now keep in mind, Blinding Cloud can still be scary. Broodlords also are indeed on the horizon. You can no longer abduct sieged up tanks, by the way, with Vipers. That is one of the things that has changed in the most recent balance patch for StarCraft 2. So Blinding Clouds will still work, but not abductions. And I think we are indeed going to be going into the Blinding Clouds. Those siege tanks are disabled. Hydra's right now pushing through as well. Their damage per second is far higher than that of roaches, and I think we're gonna see even more SCVs die. I love the tunneled roaches here, trying to unburrow them right next to the tanks to let the tanks deal friendly fire. Lambo is absolutely dominating here. What a brilliant match. After that first game in the series, it really looked like this was going to be another one of those Maru games. Admittedly, Lambo got a little bit lucky in the second game, right? With those supply depots lowered and the Lings and the Banes running through. But now this third game is strategically brilliant here from the German player. And Maru clearly is getting beat at his own macro game. It's not over yet, though. But what I really like here for the Zerg is the switch up towards Broods. There's really no good answer here for Maru against Broodlords at all. What you really want to do is go into Thors here as the Terran, but what have you seen so far? You've only seen Roaches and Hydras, really. So if that's the case, do you really stop siege tank production in favor of Thors? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. So we are soon going to arrive at 12 tanks, though, which may just be the upper limit. I think he could go for some blind Thor production here in a moment. If he hasn't seen it. No, he hasn't. Not a bad idea to maybe add some of those bad boys into the mix. Hydra's getting their dash upgrade. We don't, by the way, have any brutes yet. Maybe Lambo just wants to use this as like a late game surprise. Ooh, preemptively burrowing a bunch of Lings inside of the mineral line too. I kind of like it, but it's not going to happen. Already the damage has been done, and here we go again. More and more Vipers join in. More and more Blinding Clouds indeed are going to be thrown down. Roaches trying to come in from the side, but the siege tank numbers are big. The anti-armor missile gets thrown down onto the Roach Hydra. Lambo decides to back up. Okay. I love the Vikings here, by the way. The Vikings to chip away against the Vipers. Not a single Viper has died so far, but they are a super expensive unit. And despite the fact that Lambo has been winning pretty much all of the fights, it seems, he's not a very rich man. If you look at the total supply count, it's all good. But this is not a very sustainable army for the Zerg. And this right here for Terran certainly is. Okay. We have a cheeky little Hellion. Trying to... Okay. Get lucky. Not such a bad idea. Resources lost-wise, actually, this is much better for the Zerg than I thought it would have been. But I think Lambo is reading the game correctly. The fact that he just added on another round of drones here is big. I think it's very easy here to just kind of run to your own death by accident, sitting at like 70-something workers and just never really being able to accumulate enough resources. I think all things considered, this is still a good spot here for the Zerg, but Maru is doing Maru things, right? You can never really count him out. It kind of looked like he was up with his back against the wall, but it turns out he's got a very large back. Or maybe a very small wall. Or I don't know. But you get what I'm trying to say, right? Like, it kind of looked like he was down and out, and he's back at it now. Thor production has begun. We have 4 Thors coming up. New command centers added into the mix. We're going into the fusion core as well. Probably for Liberators. Could be for battlecruiser play even, but that's a little weird. In this particular instance, I've seen weirder things before. Maru sometimes likes to go ahead and mix them in. Not so much against Zerg, though. Either way, we have more starports coming up. Dude, if we actually go mass battlecruiser, I'm gonna lose my mind. Oh, the fact that Maru actually maxes out here and is in such a playable spot just speaks volumes over the skill level of the guy. Anyways, the Brute Lords have now arrived. There's 10 of them out in total. There are 8 Vikings and 4 Thors. The Thors are indeed already in high impact mode. Some good abductions though on the Vikings. And that means that the Hydras are going to be able to shut them down easy peasy. Say goodbye to your reliable anti-air. Some nice abductions as well on the Thors. For some reason the siege tanks are no longer abductable, but the Thors are. Mass repair right now onto that Thor. We need a couple of blue flame Hellbats here, preferably. Blinding Cloud though. These SCVs body blocking as well, making it impossible for the Thors to get back into the fight. And the Brute Lords are advancing. More and more SCVs die over at the 4th base. More and more Terran units, though, on the ground are also disappearing. Lambo reinforcing this with mass Hydra Ling. He is the swarm in this particular game. And I just have to say, this is a brilliant match here from Lambo. I really like everything that he's doing here. Doing it against the world #1 Terran. Maybe the world #2 Terran. Depends on who you ask. But he's reliably doing this against one of the all-time greats. But still, little asterisk right next to my statement. Maru is still Maru. Maru still has, how many orbitals? 7. 7 orbital commands. There's a base down at the bottom. Lambo actually does not see that one. He had a Burrowed Ling there a while ago, but Maru took care of it. I think this is still a little bit too much, though. I think there's just too many freaking Zerg units right now arriving. No planetary fortresses are making this difficult for the Terran player. Another Blinding Cloud. The Queens from the low ground as well helping out with a creep highway moving in through the middle. I think Lambo has done it. Has he? Wait a second. No. 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 I keep reminding myself as much as I'm reminding you. Never count Maru out. Maru is actually still alive. I think what's missing here for Lambo is a small group of Zerglings biting away at the SCV line over here. This is Maru's lifeline. And Lambo doesn't know. So Lambo, for the majority of the late game, had a Zergling burrowed right over here. And I think he kind of blanked out on it a bit. Now, you must realize it, though. Like, it's just... You know, when there's smoke, there's fire, right? Like, how in the world is Terran still affording this? The only real chance is that there is another mining base. Yeah, he's gonna find it right now. And this is a really big moment in the game. Maru is gonna lose the mining that he's got here. He's gonna lose a couple of siege tanks, too. He's got some mining, I guess, established again over at the 3 o'clock position, but it's difficult, though, for the Terran now. That should have happened, though, several minutes ago. I think if that would have happened 2 minutes ago, the game was over. Maru had to get a little lucky. But you know what? When you create opportunities for yourself like that, it is not such a bad idea. And despite the fact that 79 SCVs were killed in this game, Maru is still alive. I mean, he's not healthy, but he's also not really on his deathbed so much. Roach Hydra, Ravager Hydra. I don't really view it as a late game unit comp. Hatchery in the far top right. Not going to be killable with just Hellions alone. There are a bunch of spine crawlers set up in every single one of the exposed bases, which I do kind of love. Still going to hurt a little, though. Lambo only has 60-something workers remaining now. Dude, Maru is actually such a disgustingly good defensive Terran. How in the world is this... After the early game, it kind of felt like it was game over, you know? Like, minute 6 seemed to be dire for Maru. And yet, here we are. I still kind of hate the position, but we see this time and time again. Especially for Maru, where he just stays alive for long enough. The opponents start overextending, maybe overestimating their advantage. And then he somehow, some way ends up winning it. Here we go again, though. I don't think Lambo is going to let this one slide. The blinding clouds are good. The abductions are pretty much perfect. He backs up yet again. But you know what? If Zerg pushes through here, you have the 7 siege tanks firing away at clumped up Zerg units. You just end up in a roach meat grinder over here, right? It's very easy for Zerg to overextend, but Lambo playing this out intelligently. But look at the supply count. It's... yeah. I don't hate it. I do not hate it here from Maru. 81 SCVs have died this game. Lambo only at 69 drones. Many people would say that's nice, but I don't think it's good enough. Maybe Swarmos would have been a good choice. We're a long ways away from Swarmos now. Okay, now the third base is in a world of trouble. Looks like Lambo is even thinking about starting to snipe all of the orbitals themselves. Obviously, he sees the SCVs trying to return resources over here. It's indicative that there is some sort of mining attempted as well on the left side. Now Maru apparently needs to, mine the upper right-hand corner. This is apparently his next best choice. Go after a base that Zerg has been mining already. The mineral line will smell of drone. They will smell like Zerg. It's a disgusting smell. It's like old disgusting blue cheese, you know. It's not a good smell. Anyways, it's problematic because this is a far away expansion. There's a lot of creep closing in on this distance too. And if you lose the low ground position over here, then suddenly your natural expansion is becoming exposed. Already we have a roach right here tunneling around. Oh, siege tank decides to unsiege. Maru right now putting all of his eggs in this upper right-hand corner, it seems. It's a small basket. A very large number of eggs. But yeah, he can no longer really afford to defend all of the bases. And that now means that Lambo could tunnel in with the roaches. Going into the main base here as the Zerg is absolutely brilliant. This is the lifeline of Terran. Yep, blinding clouds yet again. And now all of the Terran reinforcements are gonna be eaten up by the Zerg if Maru does not retreat the upper right-hand position. Okay, Maru is indeed going in that direction yet again, but now suddenly he can't really get his siege tanks in a spot where he can fire them. He's trying to brute force his way in here, but the corrosive biles are keeping that Terran army at bay. In the meantime, the roaches and the lings inside of the main are putting in a ton of damage as well. A lot of production structures have died. Upper right-hand corner, though, is up and running. Yet again, we have a load of mules landed left, right, and center. Maru has a bit of sustain yet again. Lambo is thinking about going around the corner here. Thinking about maybe shoving the rest of his army into the Terran's main base too, but I think this right here is much better. Yeah, great moves. A really lovely play here. Very strategic play here by Lambo. Maybe one of the best games I've ever seen him play. 646 average actions per minute in this particular game too. And now that you know that Terran is spread thinly yet again, right? Now that you know that Terran has cycled some of their army down south towards the main base yet again, using the advantage of the creep, cycling the army towards the upper right-hand corner is brilliant. There's now only a handful of siege tanks, well, defending this. Maru is gonna try and run towards the upper right-hand corner, but this is really his final mining in this game. Orbital Command is going to go down. All of the siege tanks are going to fall as well. Yeah, I think this is it. I think Maru is on his last legs. GG gets called. It's Lambo who wins the series 2-1. So a little bit later, that same day, these two played a secondary best of 3 series in the same tournament. I figured, you know what? Since the first best of 3 was such a banger, let us go ahead and have a look at the second one as well. So far, very standard openers by both players. Yet again, though, Maru opting for a good old triple command center. We've actually seen him play some weird and wacky 2-base openers as well lately. So far, not really opting to, do that against Lambo. Maybe this is just the more convenient approach here for the South Korean Terran player, but it is nice to see that Lambo can certainly fight it very well, winning that first best of 3. Maybe not really something that a lot of people expected, but honestly, he did it brilliantly. Couldn't really find a lot of mistakes there. Maybe the game was dragged out a little bit longer than he wanted it to. I guess not scouting that base at the bottom really did hurt them quite a bit, and it stretched the game on for at least a few more minutes. But ultimately, Lambo, at the very least in that final game, was in charge from basically start to finish. You know what we do again? I mean, it worked well in the previous game. Maybe we should bring it back once more. This is about a 320 or so Roach Warren, so the timing is a little bit different. Extra gas is going up as well inside of the natural expansion. No Zergling speed, though. No, he's already got it done. Okay, I was wondering about it. This can actually turn into a Roach Ling Flood. Going like a Roach Ravager Ling Flood is something that Terrans do struggle with from time to time. I'm assuming we're going to see the big switcheroo here, although we already have Marauders coming up. Wait, did Maru see? No, Maru did not see. He's building Marauders here blindly. Concussive shells coming up too. Maybe Maru actually wants to go for an attack of his own? Are we going to build a medevac with the next 100 gas? Yeah, we are. Okay. So Maru wants to go for like a Hellbat Marauder push here off of Triple Command Center. And he's doing it against a Roach Rusher. So, Roach Rush versus Marauder Hellbat Rush. It's a little bit of a funky setup. Both players trying to outsmart each other. I would imagine, though, if you follow this up with Lings as well, which is what Lambo is doing, it is going to be really sweet for him. The problem, though, for the Zerg here is the fact that Terran already has Triple Command Center. Like, if we just see a trait between the 2 unit compositions, it's a massive advantage for Terran because the triple CC build is so strong. Stimpak right now on the back of this. Double engineering bay as well on the back of this too. Maru, though, is passing by the roaches. And likewise, Lambo here is passing by the Marauders. Do we retreat now or do we commit? I guess the third base is pretty much as good as dead. Brenda here gets concussive shelled immediately. Roaches indeed commit to the counter here regardless. Here's the rest of the Terrans, though. He's not gonna go for the third. He wants to go for the natural expansion instead. Lambo already inside of the natural now. He's just gonna try and see if he can break open that main base and maybe start working on the mineral line there. In the meantime, though, speaking of mineral lines, we have the drones retreating. The natural expansion of Lambo is in a world of trouble. Supply depots are being killed, though, on the side of the Terran. And as long as these units are taken care of, right? Oh, he's supply blocked right now. That's a big issue. But as long as these Roaches and Ravagers die, it should be okay for Maru, who is dealing a tremendous amount of damage in the meantime on the other side of the map. But this is just such a strong army. I love the Viking on the ground as well. 5 confirmed kills on that bad boy alone. So many SCVs have died, but we have Triple Mule. And Triple Mule is gonna make up for a lot of the losses. Lambo's losses are not quite down to 0, though. He's still losing more and more troops of his own. I think Maru would like to kill at least a few more drones. 30 to 17 workers. Yeah, let's try and maybe see if we can even those odds a little bit more. Wow, GG gets cold, though. Lambo here realizes it. It's a bit weird. This may feel like a bit of a conflicting game, right? Because Lambo has just killed 31 workers while losing only 3 of his own. But this is one of those spots where you know you go up against Triple Command Center, and Triple Command Center Mule alone will already make up for more of the mining than Lambo has in total. And obviously this army in the natural was not dealt with just yet. So GG gets called. It's Maru who wins game number 1. Okay, and just like that, a few minutes later, we find ourselves on the map Tourmaline, yet again. This is where things started, and if it's up to Maru, it is also gonna be where things will end. Ooh, he didn't notice. Maru washed up? No. No, I don't think so. He's playing some really good StarCraft. Got a little lucky, though. Ooh, now that was nice. We rarely see a Warcraft 3 surround in StarCraft 2, you know? Pinned against the hatchery, surrounded by the drones and the lings. Lambo ends up killing the first Reaper. There is a single Marine out. Triple Command Center built here for Maru yet again. I think if, by the way, in the previous game, Lambo had all of the units together, he could actually contest that push here from the Terran quite well. But when you have reinforcing Zerglings just sort of running head first into a bunch of Hellbats that are being healed up by Medevacs, it's, yeah, not going to happen. Great start here, though, for the German Zerg player in this particular instance. Third hatchery coming up. I wonder if Lambo is going to mix things up at all. So, in the first game, we saw him going into a lair and then into a Baneling nest right over here. Maru just sort of grabbed the game by the hands really early on and never really let go. It's one of the things that Maru does better than anybody else. And he would love to see a repeat of that. Hellion Benchido, super safe. Last time around, Terran ended up going for a double barracks triple command center opener. So a different approach here from Maru this time around. He's been a fan of the Hellbats, by the way, in this series. He's made quite a few of them. Nice snipe on the creep tumor. Yep. Hellbats, still one of the funkier units in StarCraft 2. It's one of the units I actually get questions about from time to time. So, Hellions are mechanical. Mechanical meaning that they can be repaired by SCVs. Anything that is mechanical in StarCraft 2 can be repaired by an SCV. And obviously the structures here are mechanical, the mech units are mechanical. However, Marines are not, right? Marines cannot be repaired by SCVs because they are biological. Since they're biological, though, they can be healed up by a medevac. Now, Hellions, when they transform into a Hellbat, also gain the biological tag. So they're the only unit in the game that is both biological. Here's the Banshee, by the way, getting some damage in. But they're the only unit in the game, Hellbats that is, that are both biological as well as mechanical. So you can heal them with a medevac while simultaneously also repairing them with SCVs. It is why those Hellbat pushes are really scary for Zergs, because the Hellbats can just be healed up by the medevacs and then the Zerglings just kind of run in head first. If they weren't, then I guess Lings alone would probably be enough to overwhelm those attacks that we saw in the previous game. Maru, though, using that information very nicely. I still think it's a little funky. Getting, like, you transform the same unit, and then it gets a new armor tag? It's been in the game ever since the Hellbat has been in the game. But I still think it's a little bit of a funky mechanic. Anyways. I love the Raven. Yeah, we're going to be roasting some of the creep. Okay. Actually, are SCVs also mechanical and biological? I just said they're the only unit in the game that is. Maybe SCVs are actually also mechanical and biological. Nice little push here for the Terran, though. The combination of the auto turret right here together with the Hellions. Hydra then added into the mix here for Lambo, who is not really opting to go for the Baneling speed just yet. He does have a Baneling nest, probably a just-in-case type of situation. Yeah, some of the things in StarCraft 2 are just not very logical, right? Like, they're... I hate it when my science fiction video game doesn't make sense in real life. Such a mean thing of Blizzard to do. Ay, ay, ay. Trying to optimize for gameplay rather than realism? Ugh. Disgusting. Yeah, it's the same, for example, when you morph a roach into a ravager. It's one of those weird interactions in StarCraft 2, right? So, roaches are armored. They have more HP than ravagers do. But when you morph a roach into a ravager, it loses the armor tag. They get less HP, but because roaches take bonus damage from units that deal bonus damage to armored, and ravagers do not, even though ravagers have less HP, they usually live for a little bit longer. It also has to do with the fact that they have more range, I suppose, and they, because of that, usually tend to stay more in the back. But it's all these weird little quirks in StarCraft that do generally, make the game interesting. Second factory inside of the main base this time around. Fourth command center already done. Fifth command center fires up really quickly. You know what? Maru is actually getting these command centers super rapidly in this particular case. Yeah, in my mind, the roach turning into a ravager always makes a little bit more sense because it's an entirely different unit. The Hellion transforming into a Hellbat is just the same unit, right? Because they can transform backwards again. Ah, well. Ah, well. Here we go. Maru opting to go for the middle of the map planetary. I think it's a wonderful spot. If you get a planetary up right over here, you just have a great staging area here to start pushing into that third base of Lambo. The order in which Maru is getting these command centers, though, is a little different. So, this is a very fast fourth command center right over here. A bit of a delayed second factory, and then a super quick fifth command center, too. And now he's finally adding on barracks 6, 7, and 8. This is Maru mixing things up a little bit. It might just be that he once more feels like he can indeed be a little bit greedy. I wonder if he feels like he can get away with this sort of thing, mostly because, again, he is leading the series 1-0, just like what we saw with the first best of 3. Cutting a couple of corners here and there, though. It's also very easy now for Lambo to get a bit of a misread, because this looks like a reasonably standard build, but then suddenly there's an extra command center. These are expensive structures. Yeah, Lambo looking for an angle now with the Hydroling Bane, but not really finding very much. Another CC is going to be added into the mix. We do have a Hive already done. Adrenal Glands is coming up, but we do not really have any sort of high tech here for Lambo, so not transitioning into Ultras, not really getting, lurkers going or anything along those lines. Does he? Oh, is he going to push? I don't know, Lambo. Blinding Clouds are available, though. He does have 2 Vipers. Let's see. The Blinding Clouds are going to have to be good. Anti-armor missile is nice, but it's on Lings and Banes. There's the Blinding Cloud disabling one of the tanks. Can we get another one down? Maybe he's going to throw it a little bit further back. Instead, he decides to just run through. Backing up, though, is Maru here to the safety of the Planetary. Planetary over here was not yet done, so Maru can lift off and try again a moment later. Lambo instantly remaxes, though. 92 Lings on the production tab. 10 minutes into the match. Now we go Lurker then. Okay. Massive skill check right there from the German Zerg. Hoping, maybe praying, that Maru's defense was not going to be as good as it was. To be fair. He got a little lucky in that second game, right? On Winter Madness. The second game of the first series. But usually, I think we can all say that Maru's defensive Terran style is better than anybody else's. And the armor missile yet again. Apparently he does not care. EMP though on all of the Vipers. Still, Lambo thinks about crashing through, but the siege tanks just deal so much damage. And now the secondary planetary here is finished. All right. Ghost production has already kicked in. A Liberator production has also begun. Lambo has taken all of the bases out on the map. 89 workers available here for him, but he doesn't really have enough workers to saturate even really like 2/3 of his mineral lines, it seems. He can probably support like 120 drones at this point. Problem is, if he does make that many workers, Maru is going to counterattack pretty much immediately and snipe bases left, right, and center. Oh. That's a very ambitious little drone here. Sorry, lad. No, I know. You got the promotion. In the meantime, though, speaking of promotions, we do once more see blinding clouds over here. Planetary Fortress. He is going to be able to kill that. I think this is actually an important snipe here for the Zerg, because otherwise Maru was just going to be unbreakable. Maru, though, is going to continuously push over here, too. That's hatchery number 2 going down. Hatchery number 3 may not be too far behind either. What's better, having 3 hatcheries that aren't mining, or killing one of your opponent's command centers that is mining? Oh, it's a lot of drones here, actually, that were hiding in the corner. I guess there was a little bit of mining here. Immediately, though, Lambo has 86 workers up and going yet again. New command centers added into the mix. Maru has already been replacing those command centers that he lost, so we're gonna go and attempt another planetary right over here. Now, this is looking pretty impenetrable. I don't think you can really do too much here as the Zerg. Sensor tower is going to give Maru the heads up if Zerg units are on the horizon, and I think this is an area that he can cover with minimal amounts of units. Likewise, the center alleyway over here is also looking pretty good for the Terran. Planetary, siege tanks. I love the supply depot positioning, forcing the banelings to roll in single file, maximizing splash. Lambo is going to attempt, though, to see if he can break this site. It does mean that he's leaving the upper left pretty exposed. Maru goes for a push over here. I think he can deal a lot of damage. Widow mines are going to be set up out front. Okay. Blinding Cloud onto a planetary would not be a bad idea. He's going to go for the siege tank instead. Lings and Banes are rolling through. What about the SCVs? Command Center lifts off. Oh, okay. Planetary will die. Bunch of SCVs also do die, but that's a lot of Banelings falling. In the meantime, we have that planetary and siege tank group over here on the left side also trying its best. I don't think that was bad for Maru. Even though he lost a lot of stuff, I think Lambo lost even more. Okay. Yeah, and now suddenly, this is the situation that you really want as a Terran player. This is kind of what I expected earlier on as well in one of the previous games when I opened up the units lost tab. 10,000 minerals lost on the side of the Terran, but nearly double that on the side of the Zerg. It makes up for the mining difference a lot. Tactical nuke coming up as well here for Maru. Yeah, Maru's defense is just so freaking solid, right? I mean, he did make a mistake earlier on Winter Madness with the Lings and the Banes subtly running into the natural expansion. But those are the exception, not the rule. Hatchery in the far bottom right is going to die again. Maru, very, very good. Okay. We're going to attempt that base once more. Hatchery over here at the bottom at like the 6 o'clock position. Also remade again for Lambo. 88 workers still available for him though. And yeah, there's a little bit of a peak over here for Maru. That's whenever he decides to land a group of mules. But across the board, he's been behind economically for a long time. Nice splitties. Perfect splitties. Okay. Okay. Problem here for Maru. I like this spot for him, but how do you take another base? Where do you take it? Which one do you go for? Really, the only choice is this, but if you go for the base over here, you're really leaving the center and then also the top lane of his defenses very exposed. I love this as well, actually, for Lambo. Ooh, taking a page out of Rogue's book, we have the Overseers coming up together with a Nidus network. If you can pop a Nidus worm in the back of the Terran's main base, that's another way to pull them out of position. Maru, though, right now trying to go for that base on the right side of the map. This was one, of course, that little drone took for just a few seconds earlier on. But Maru is going to be spread very thin. Gee, he decides to go for the forward CC as well. Lingbane Hydra moving through once more. That's plenty of Terran, though, to push this away. Siege tank, siege up. Not going to happen, Lambo. +3 mech units, by the way. +3 attack for the mech units for the vehicles. Already finishing. Nice little snipes right there onto a bunch of Banes. Another starport added into the mix. Another 2 starports added into the mix. What about the fight up north? Double planetary fortress right here from Maru. Double planetary, though, is not even going to be good enough when the Banelings can still splash both of them at the same time. But, I mean, that's 2 planetaries for a hell of a lot of Zerg. I don't even think that's a terrible trade right there for the Terran. New command center immediately flies on over to try and reposition over here. Maru has more command centers. How many orbitals does he have at the moment? 6 of them, okay. 6 and then 2 planetaries, 2 more CCs. Additional one added into the mix. High-sec auto tracking coming up. We already finished up the building armor upgrade. Lovely stuff. Okay. Now, Lambo can keep this going for a long time, but I think the fact that Maru took this base over here now and actually seems pretty solid on, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bases. I think 6 base economy is good enough. Eventually, in like 5 minutes, he is gonna need 1 more base. But I think Maru is safe to sit here for a while longer. And maybe even go for like the killing blow if he wants to. Notice how Maru here, by the way, is not adding on any additional SCVs anymore. So after losing the previous group of them, he's just saying, okay, that's enough. I will replace any lost SCVs with mules instead. Now another good blinding cloud here once more. Banelings are blowing up even more of those Terran workers. 12 workers down the line. Is Maru gonna replace them? I don't see any of them queued up just yet. Fusion core coming up. We had 2 additional starports as well on the production tab. More factories added into the mix too. Maru actually making the switch from basically Marine Marauder Medevac into Ghosts, and then eventually into what looks like Liberator Siege Tank Ghost or some form of Ghost Mech. Yeah, he's getting the Blue Flame upgrade here from Maru, so he is climbing the Terran tech ladder all the way up and then sideways after he got to the very tip. Kind of awesome to see. He's still making some Marines and Marauders, though, for the time being. But I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to replace those with a more sustainable army a little bit later on into the game. Factory numbers are already pretty high. He's got 5 of them. 5 factories together with 3 starports. It's expensive, though. It's the reason why Maru doesn't have that much money in the bank. He's effectively spent it all on infrastructure. Here we go again. Lambo sending in another wave. I don't know about this one, though. Is there enough Zerg to really push through? Maru backs up to the safety of the high ground. Lovely micro there by the Terran. And that right there was expensive. Maru also, by the way, EMPing, I think, on purpose the Overseers. Maybe he was aiming for the Vipers, but making sure that there's no changelings slipping behind the lines is really sweet. Nidus Worm over here is not going to happen. Yeah, Maru doing Maru things this game. Apparently, we needed a little bit of money. Yeah. A little bit of money before the end of the year right here for Maru. More CCs added into the mix. More and more upgrades coming up as well. My only concern right here for Maru, really, is the fact that he is spending so much on, like, a lot of upgrades, on a lot of buildings, that I wonder if he's gonna run out. What if you don't have enough cash anymore? Because Lambo is relentless. More and more Banelings crashing through. More and more blinding clouds disable the Terran army. Siege tanks end up going down yet again. And Maru does need to make sure that he has enough of a bank to actually remax. Which at this point he does. But Lambo can keep this going for a while longer. I'm almost a little afraid right now, though, for the Zerg to look at the units lost. Yeah. The 2-to-1 ratio for Maru is still close to that. Not quite. But Maru has been incredibly cost efficient. Only a single ghost, by the way, has died. Wait, how many ghosts does he have? 16. Has he only... So he's made 17 ghosts this game? They've been on the front lines sniping Banes. Yeah, all of them have a bunch of kills. They've been sniping Banelings. That's how close they have been to the battle, but somehow only one has died so far. It's pretty nice. Greater Spire coming up right now for Lambo, who's aiming to go for a more sustainable unit composition moving on. What about this position over here, though? Will those ghosts survive for another day? I think they will, dude. I don't think there's enough right here for the Zerg to really break through all of this. Excellent fight here for Maru yet again. Dragging the engagement off creep. The drones decide to evacuate inside of the Nidus network. And I think now we may very well see the Terran even attempt to take this base over here too. Maybe he doesn't really plan on mining it just yet, but you may as well try to take it just to antagonize the opponent. Yeah, this is one of the very best Terran games I've ever seen. Really, really solid work here by the Terran. I mean, I'm still not minding the position for Lambo very much, but it does kind of feel, and it's weird to say this, but it kind of feels like he's starting to fizzle out. He's got 7,000 minerals in the bank, 1,000 gas, but he's still unable to really compete with the Terran army. I mean, he needs to get a good hit in. He needs to get a good hit in against these ghosts. Maybe if he can get like a fungal down. Maybe if he can get like a engagement with like neural parasite or something along those lines. But it kind of feels like Maru here is, yeah, just unstoppable. It's a weird vibe, right? Because Zerg has had so much money in the bank for so long. They've had basically the entire map under their control. But Maru is just slowly chipping away at whatever he can hit. That's another Zerg base now down the drain. Lambo unable to create a unit composition that can compete with this of the Terran. And what do you make? I don't even know what you really make against this. Maybe Brute Lords is a nice idea, but he doesn't really have the money for it anymore. Fighting on creep, though, could be a saving grace. Nice target firing right there with the Liberator, shutting down the Infestors. We do see the drones breaking through, much like the SCVs have done earlier on in this game, to tank some of the damage. Ghosts activate the cloaking yet again. They snipe down whatever they can hit. That's 20 workers down the drain, though, and even more of them will fall. I think Maru is very happy with that fight yet again. And the ghosts, they still live. 2 ghosts! There's no way! We saw one ghost die earlier, and then another one over here just now when it was casting the nuke. Only 2 ghosts! It's the original squad! What? How? 14, 10, 9, 6? Yeah, these guys have been in the middle of the battle all this time. For some reason, though, they all live. I'm starting to think Maru's pretty good at the game. I know. At the risk of being called a fanboy. I think Maru is... I think he's all right. Yeah, I think he's pretty good. These guys all are generals of the Terran army now. You can't see it, but underneath this spacesuit, they are covered in metals, head to toe. You can hear them coming. Like a bunch of coins in their pocket. You can hear them coming from a mile away. Lambo now takes desperate fights off creep. This is never gonna work. Nah, this feels like a throw right now here for this particular army here for Lambo. Lambo basically hoping, praying, crossing his fingers that this is gonna be a good engagement for him, but that was never gonna happen. GG gets cold. Wow. So even though it was Lambo who won the first best of 3 of the day, it is Maru who, in the end, wins the deciders match. Honestly, phenomenal sets, though, of games here. I think Lambo must have been very happy after the first win, and then he realized later on that he had to face off against Maru a second time around. And that is something I didn't really mention yet from Maru, but Maru is somebody that's very used to playing these super long tournament days. Like, you can tell that his performance in this game was as good as the one in the first best of 3. It's something that's not easy, right? Like, when you know you're playing early on and then you have to perform again like 8 hours later that same day and you still have to perform at a very high level, it is so easy for things to just go terribly wrong. But that's another thing that the top level StarCraft players seem to have. They can just manage their energy really well and just keep this skill level going. Either way, it's Maru here who won the second best of 3, 2-0. But I gotta say, Lambo, especially in that first best of 3, he played phenomenally.